there's a bit of controversy happening on, Nigeria and also the social media platform, because the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, on Thursday approved the appointment of Olukoyede to serve as the executive chairman to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, for a renewable term of 4 years in the first instance, pending Senate confirmation. Now, this comes nearly 4 months after Tinubu suspended the former chairman of the anti-graft agency chief, Mr. Abdulrasheed Bawa. The presidential advisor to media and publicity, Ajuri Ngalale, in a statement said that the president also approved of the appointment of Muhammad Hassan Hamajoda to serve as the secretary of the EFCC for a renewable term of 5 years in the first instance, pending the Senate's confirmation.
And then Ngalale said that the appointments were based on the powers vested in the president as established in Section 2, Subsection 3 of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Establishment Act 2004. Now, Premium Times reported that Olukoyede, although a former secretary of the EFCC and ex-chief of staff to the chairman of the EFCC, did not meet the requirement of the section, as mentioned above, that's Section 2, Subsection 3 of the EFCC Act, to be qualified for the appointment. So the law stipulates that a chairman of the commission must be a serving or retired member of any government security or law enforcement agency, but below the rank of Assistant Commissioner of Police or equivalent. Possesses not less than 15 years experience. And according to the medium, that is Premium Times, Olukoyede had no experience in any security or law enforcement agency until his first appointment at the EFCC in 2016, when he was appointed to serve as the chief of staff to the acting chairperson of the EFCC, Ibrahim Magu. He held the position from 2016 to 2018. But to unpack all of this and to look at different controversies surrounding this appointment, we have in the studio Mukhtar Modibbo. He is the Secretary General at Connected Development Code. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me on the issue.
So it's all code, follow your money. Good morning.
Amen. Good morning.
All right. We also have joining us via Zoom from Canada. We have a journalist, a broadcaster, and civil society activist, Okhiria Agbonsuremi, Executive Director, PRIMOG, that is the Progressive Impact Organization and Community Development. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
And of course, joining us also.
Thank you so much for having me on the program.
And joining us also via Zoom from Kano is Abba Hikema, Esquire, a lawyer. Good morning, Abba.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Indeed. All right, let's head on to, the main points of this conversation. And I will start with, of course, Okhiria. So from what is happening now, there's this controversy of he's not even qualified. So what is your take on the president appointing Olukoyede as the EFCC chairman?
I would think that why I agree that the public, and the general public should be interested in who is appointed, the qualifications, and whether the person fits squarely the shoe of such a person that should be responsible for steady affairs of the EFCC. We must remember that the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has the duty to, as it were, also look what the president has done, the appointment made, take a look at the provision of the Constitution, and as the person of the nominee by the president. Of course, it is not the first we are seeing the National Assembly, will not be the first time we'll see the National Assembly, if they do, in this case. You remember, was not confirmed by the National Assembly. He continued despite the fact that the National Assembly didn't find Magu fit and proper to become the chairman of the FCC. But I think those who are leaders, those who are saddled with the responsibility of leadership, must do things that are in line with the provisions of the law. The laws are not just made for decoration. They are not just made for you to trample upon and you just look and throw it aside. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is the most important government personality in Nigeria. Is not just the President, is the Commander-in-Chief of the armed forces. He is the one that takes responsibility for everything, the lapses. If they're ready to be taken, it is on his table. So if he has so deemed that Olukoyede is good enough to be appointed, then that appointment should be subjected to provisions of the Constitution. And good, we have the Senate, and that bit is interesting. So that before the Senate sits, the committee or which way they want to screen him, look at the qualifications. They will look at it by the provisions of the law, see if he is qualified to the chairman of the EFCC. Once we begin to do things correctly, our institutions will not.
Okay,
our laws will not be respected.
What's your take on this now? Do you think the president is moving in the right direction right now with this appointment?
Well, I think that we just should allow the Senate to look at his nomination. It is good to have our opinion by our own pocket lawyering that, look, this provision didn't need that. We don't know if the president probably is taking a look at a different altogether. From the surface of the provisions of the law, we can see that the person so appointed has not been in any of the armed forces. He's not been in any of the security, a law enforcement. Let's generalize it with law enforcement agencies, police, or the other ways. But as it were, like I said, I would prefer to have the Senate take a look at it, maybe into it, and then we'll begin to see how with that shortage by our own estimation is nominated to fill that position.
Doctor, I'd like you to hold your thoughts there. We have a legal practitioner in the studio with us, Barrister Hikma. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your contribution as always. But let's put this now to the the legal perspective now. We see this, like Doctor just said, he said that he's not qualified because according to Section 2, subsection 3 of the EFCC Establishment Act, this person has to be somebody who has served in the capacity of someone who has worked with the law enforcement agency. And the EFCC Act has stipulated that, let's say from records, we've seen this man act as a secretary and working hand in hand with the former acting chairman of the EFCC. Now, legal practitioners have been reacting, and some have said that the appointment of Olukoyede has clearly contravened Section 2, subsection 1, paragraph A of the EFCC Establishment Act of 2004, which said that he is not qualified to hold this position. Now, I would like to hear your legal perspective to all of these sections and all of the law that is causing a lot of controversy in the heart of many Nigerians.
I think a straightforward answer to your question is that there is no conflict whatsoever. I mean, the law is clear, very, very clear. And then, the trend everywhere in the world is that laws are interpreted in their mean and natural meanings. Read Section 2, subsection 1, Section 2, subsection 1, paragraph A of the 2004, Establishment Act of the EFCC. You clearly that nobody will be eligible to be appointed as the chairman of the EFCC except that has fulfilled certain requirements. And then these requirements may be broken down. Number one, the person has to be serving or retired, law enforcement duty agent, and must have served in such capacity for 15 years. In other words, he must have 15 years of cognate experience. This is a plain English language and is to be given its natural means. This has been the attitude of all the courts to read these words to mean exactly what they sound like. Okhiria, I read his file, was only appointed as the secretary to the EFCC in 2016. If you count arithmetically from 2016 to date, it is not up to 15 years. So you can say that he hasn't that 15 years of net experience working in a security or law enforcement agent. This is assuming some of the men that is being proffered by some court from us is that he's working in the EFCC as the free somehow affords him, that credit. The credential fulfilling that ambition, which says that you have to be a security or law enforcement agent. Now, there are also arguments that with appointment as a secretary to the EFCC also qualifies one as a security agent. The law, also I disagree with the proponents of the amendment because the law is clear that being appointed, appointment as a secretary of EFCC is not the same thing as serving as a security agent or as an enforcement agent, because secretaries of EFCC I wouldn't say mayor, is an administrative task which can be given to but the cadets, those people employed, that have to go to the rudiments and the routines of the things, who have to go, who conduct investigations, who naturally must have all the units of the, operation and then garner the necessary experience. They are the ones that they're looking about here, not somebody who served as a secretary appointed at any age. You can be appointed at in any manner whatsoever. So
now, I hope Papa can hear us. All right, so right now, Mukhtar, Modibbo, let me throw this question at you. What Abba was explaining was about, coming from the law perspective, saying that, okay, this is what is happening. But then there is other segment, there's other parts of Nigerians that are focusing on, pushing the narrative, saying that, no, Olukoyede is okay for him to take this appointment, because some people are of the opinion that the section that says, the working experience, even though it's cognate, it didn't specify that it has to be security, and him working as a lawyer, even though it's all part of, serving the nations and all that, could cover that. So what is your take on that argument?
I think first of all, we don't need to sugarcoat anything. We live in a country of over 200 million people, if I'm not mistaken. And there are a lot of lawyers, there are a lot of security apparatus, security people, like people that have experience in this space. And to today, yesterday, we just got a lot of people being promoted from being maybe superintendent of police to assistant commissioner of police and what have you. So my own take will always be, the law is there. Why do we make laws if we cannot follow them? We clearly, both Hikima and the doctor said it clearly, and we all know, both of us know. It's enshrined that you must possess that level of experience, right, from one certain level to another, and it says you must be from this particular distance. So I'm sure the people that created that law knows that something like this is needed as a requirement, right? Nobody said the president has no power to appoint, but if the president is appointing, obviously there is laid down rules to be followed. So, but for me, my own is, we understand that this is what people are saying, and this is what the law says. And over a point in my head, leadership is all about listening, it's all about adaptation, it's all about understanding, and it's all about comprehension of what the people that you are being leading says. So if the government is a government that listens, ideally, the government is trying to set a pathway for itself to deliver to that hope that they said, the government said that is the renewed hope. Obviously, the government should listen. I think they can get better people, right, for this particular role. Like the barrister said, he has served as chief of staff, he has served as secretary, right? If you're going to sugarcoat it, let's sugarcoat it in this way. From 2016 to this moment, it's not up to the 15 years that it's been enshrined, right? But I don't have a problem with him as a legal practitioner that has practiced for over 22 years, right? He has possessed a lot of experience in doing a lot of things. There are better places for him to be in place rather than being in the EFCC. If he has to be in the EFCC, can we maybe make an amend on those laws? Because I mean, laws are meant to be amended so that
we
can
are
happen.
clamoring so much on, you know, he has not served in the EFCC or any law enforcement agency for 15 years. But the other aspect, which a lot of people, which was enshrined, and people have maybe one problem with all the other. The first one was the fact that, you know, you have to serve in a law enforcement agent or in EFCC for 15 years, and you shouldn't be dismissed, you shouldn't be suspended. We all know why he left in the first place. He was suspended alongside Ibrahim Magu.
Fantastic.
But according to the presidency is saying that, yes, it implies that such cognate experience is presumed to be that of work or functions of the EFCC acquired anywhere, since the EFCC Act did not specify, did not state specifically where it must be acquired. So it is right that he should be there. And they also cleared his name, that he was suspended, but when he was tried, an investigation was carried out, he was cleared of all allegations, and that's when he left in 2018. What would you say to that?
So the thing is, as a media person now, why do you think fake news or misinformation thrive? Because the real news is not there. Now, if the presidency is saying that, why don't the public see the reports of the investigation, right? Or why is the investigation not to the public? Right? Not just, I mean, if you're investigating is normal, keep the investigation secret and everything, but the report is out there. He was serving the people. Now, immediately he was cleared of his name. Obviously, we should know about the report, right? So people are saying he was suspended. Yes, he was suspended.
He was suspended.
He was cleared. Who knows he was cleared? We know of his suspension, but we don't know of his being cleared.
That brings us to accountability and information-driven government. Let's take that to our lawyer, Barrister Hikma. Let me put this question to you again. Like the presidency said that, you know, the law is specific that you have to have 15 years of experience. He has had 15 years of experience, but the EFCC Act did not specify that you have to have it. This experience in the EFCC or any law enforcement agency rather. What would you say to that?
Well, with all due respect to the presidency, I think this is simply laughable. It is laughable actually, because if you read section 2, sub 1A of the EFCC Act, see that the requirements are listed conjunctively, which means you have the three experiences, the three conditions have to be fulfilled to that. If you leave, I mean, if you are qualified in two and not qualified in the other, then you are left out. That is why it says you have to be, you know, a retired member of the, you know, government security or law enforcement agent, not below the rank of assistant commissioner of police, and possess not less than 15 years cognate experience. You can see the under law it shows the two requirements there must coexist together and at the same time. So if you are a law enforcement agent or security, but you haven't, and then of course below the rank of assistant commissioner of police, but you don't have the 15 years cognate experience, then it goes to no issue. You're not qualified. So that there, in simple terms, is conjunctive, shows that all the three qualities, three conditions must be fulfilled together at time. This is a very small, this is a very, what do you call it? This is a handbook law. I mean, every law students are aware of this.
Okay, hold your thought there, Hikima. So I'm sending this question, of course, to Agbonsuremi. Earlier, Hikima made mention of the fact that he was appointed and being appointed as the secretary to the organization or the anti-graft agency does not make him a security agent, but people already are arguing the provision designated in the EFCC Act, where the chairman and the secretary of the commission as the only permanent members and others of the EFCC board as part-time members. So appointment of say Mohammed Hamajoda as the secretary is also another improvement in that aspect. So do you think that Olukoyede, considering that he was the secretary and according to the law it says that you are a permanent member, it makes you, does that make him also a security agent?
If the lawmakers, I think I'm happy that we have a lawyer in our midst who has explained these things succinctly. If the lawmakers don't make the law setting up the EFCC and defined in very strict practical sense who should be, describe the person that should be charged the EFCC in such clear, if they had it in mind to add that somebody who's been secretary, who has worked in the EFCC with some cognitive experience that is different from the definition so prescribed, would have said so. But they didn't say so. What said is very, very clear that this person be this and this and this. These are very, very clear things. Now, the problems we have had with the EFCC, and I have very, very clear explanations there by one of the panelists there, that one of the challenges we have had with the EFCC in particular is that of secrecy. We have had a lot of underwater in the EFCC that make everybody begin, if we actually mean business doing this act of fighting corruption. We had Magu removed from office. It was going to be probed. Nobody till tomorrow knew what happened. You have somebody there from office, you clear the person behind it, we don't know what happened. You come around, the other person has done this. Almost all of the EFCC chairmen that have been in place, apart from maybe Farida Aziri, all of them have left the offices in circumstances that the public does not know why they left the office. What happened after they have been probed? If we have to get Magu back to the police head, these things are not done this way. We have a system of destroying institutions. And that is, we say, as a civil society person, the EFCC has become an impossible institution. It's an institution of God to work with in fighting corruption, because you don't even what you are going to have there. Okay. Now,
let me camp on what you're saying right now. Talking about, the EFCC and the controversy surrounding it. What do you think, at this point with the economy that, economic crisis that we're having in the nation, and we don't have time, it's all about getting the ball rolling in making sure the economy is stable. So what do you think the president or the federal government need to do in order to pick the right people that don't come with a lot of baggages like this that will be going, back and forth?
Let me tell you, I'll be very, very blunt about it. I'll tell you, not just about President Buhari. Now, I've had systems that have been decided by successive government. Buhari came, did appointment based on parameters that are not known to people who want to have good governance. When we want to have good governance is that you pick the best. The attempt by Obasanjo to pick the best persons from anywhere in the world, go to everybody. And when Buhari came on, started to be nepotistic about his way of assembling people to boost me, make everybody fine, and the ordinary Nigeria. We also saw the rate we got. Now, when what President Tinubu has done, against against everything that is reasonable, he has decided that every key person that must be appointed to man the business of governance, strategic locations, must be persons that are a centrally located zone environment. It's not something that that are not visible. Even the blind can see it. If you want to appoint an EFCC chairman that is Obama, I want to put it point blank. Why don't you appoint one that is also? We have a lot of experiences, so that we also know that this, according to Olabode George, is my turn Nigeria Limited. When it gets to my turn, when people who I just want to serve my own interests. But this is what we have seen. It is not about Bola as president today. We have seen them wrong. When somebody from one part of the country they are first, they concentrate. This is where the problem of Nigeria is. We cannot run a country and have good governance when those who leadership are so myopic, as central, self-centered, that they don't think beyond the total result that we will have to have good governance. That is challenge that I'm problem with the flow that we have in the recent times by persons who have occupied the office of the president, who be the only people from their part of the country that would wear. I don't really mind if you ask everybody from one family to assemble and do the work, but are they qualified? You have to meet that kind of qualification to say you can that is the best person in Nigeria who can do it. But when you appoint 1, 2, 3, 5, all of them key around, and there are people, there's something fishing around, and this is actually corruption.
All right.
We are talking about corruption.
All right, thank you.
It is not like you are asking a coach for Super Eagles. We are talking about corruption. Very serious matter. So we should actually ask if we are willing to do this fight against corruption.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Agbonsuremi. Let's get back to Barrister Hikmat now. I'm actually captivated by this statement from the presidency. I'm sorry, I have to take you back because they gave reasons why Olukoyede is actually the right person to man this position. The president said it is non-justiciable to elevate convention above statutory provision, and it is time to move away from fiction to fact and from convention to strict adherence to the statutory provisions of the enabling act of the commission in our constitutional democracy. Now, this piques my curiosity now. Is there anything wrong with the interpretation of our law in Nigeria?
Well, I don't think there's any problem with the laws first, and then the interpretation also. We know that laws are not magic. Laws are written by human beings, and then they can be interpreted. I mean, certain laws don't even be interpreted. We have some rules of interpretation. I mean, in the legal parlance, but about 5 rules of interpretation. But the first one and the powerful one, and that everyone is urged and encouraged to prevail, is the literal rule of interpretation, which gives words their natural language meaning. This is a country of over 200 million people, and we're with a lot of brains, a lot of intellect, a lot of people with capacity. I mean, we're a democracy, for God's sake, and democracy all over the world is about rule of law. Are we saying that, with all due respect, I have nothing personal against him, he's a lawyer, he's supposed to be my friend, but this is about rule of law, and rule of law has to be a situation where the law prevails. I mean, in India, one can always see one. I mean, one can always be seen in Nigeria. The truth of the matter is that the law is clear. It is clear as crystal waters that Olukoyede is not qualified to head the commission because he does not have the required, preconditions, the required preconditions. And allowing him to lead this commission is a slap on the face of the executives, the legislature, and all of us.
All right, we'll have to.
And the Senate will not allow this. The Senate will not allow to
talk on that, of course, to make a confirmation on that one. All right, Mukhtar, Modibbo, let's talk about the agency itself. Right now, the anti-graft EFCC has had a number drama. There is no one that ended well, and Nigerians are focused on that particular agency because that's an agency that holds people accountable for their actions. So what do you think would be the best agenda, for the incoming, whoever it pans out to be? What would be the sole thing that he needs to do to uphold the anti-graft agency at a particular level to say, okay, yes, Nigeria has made the best choice?
First of all, right, I will not want to speak about anything drama, but I want to also based on, this is EFCC, and this is like an anti-graft agency that is scheduled with the responsibility to open up space. Open up space in the sense that open up governance. Yeah, let's see open government really showing itself. So first, I will say the new administration of EFCC that is coming, whosoever comes in, should really not, my own is, can you focus on preventive corruption, right? Can we put information out there, right, for people to also know that the EFCC can be held accountable? Now, there is no legitimacy without credibility. There is no credibility without providing service. And there is no service without holding someone accountable. And there is no holding someone accountable without having power. Now, can the EFCC put the information out there of the cases? I mean, from 2016 to 2022, right, or 23, we have over 100 cases that EFCC is running, right? Can we see these cases to a logical conclusion? And can we see people being taken to court, to the prison, or being punished for something like that? And can we begin to educate our people, young people that are coming up, to understand that this corruption affects each and every one of us? That's more of like bringing preventive measures for the corruption. And another key thing that we all need to understand is some countries, over 253 years ago, some countries have been running freedom of information law in their cover, like in Netherlands and Co. In Africa, the first country that accepted was South Africa, followed by Liberia, then Nigeria in 2011. That's the Freedom of Information FOI Act. But guess what? I mean, for you to get one information from EFCC, it's a terrible thing for you to get. And that is what brings us to the drama, right? It's normal when investigation, I mean, nobody's asking about investigation and what have you. But can you always come out to tell us this is what happened and this is what happened? Many times we've attended cases of, I studied law, but I'm not a lawyer, attended cases of EFCC in court, but you would see that a lot of time the cases will not have a lot of sufficient evidence and what have you to prosecute that. Can we look inward and see what we can do to this effect? And when you're fighting corruption, obviously there is a saying that the corruption will fight you back, right? Can we be cognizant of that particular thing in the EFCC? And can we, just for God's sake, have a team in the EFCC that can do a solid work, right? Carry the public along. I mean, there are a lot of times when there are a lot of civil society, Primark just left, there are a lot of civil society organizations that are willing to provide information, put up a petition. I know we have done 6 petitions to the EFCC as follow the money, and we've not gotten any responses on that. That's on constituency project, by the way.
I'm talking about, the activities of the EFCC and the person who manned that big position as the chairman of the EFCC. Judging from the time of Nuhuru Bado, we saw the likes of Magu, who was never confirmed by the Zen, and then we saw, the former EFCC chairman, who is still in custody of the DSS since June, and now we're having this kind of controversy. Now, what does this say as a nation who wants to fight corruption? Are we ready? Is there a light at the end of the tunnel when you talk about corruption?
One of the first things between government and citizen, or between government and people, is trust. Once the trust is not there, people will not anticipate or perceive something right. Now, go on social media. One of the first things you see is that disjoint, the lack of trust between people and government. And I think the best thing that government can do now, possibly, is to put out that information, is to begin to establish that trust. I mean, this is a new government, and I read something, someone said, this government listen, right? So if truly the government listen, I think there are people, I don't have a problem with the person that is being appointed, right? he is a lawyer, for God's sake. I mean, he has done well for himself. But this particular position, he is not qualified. So being him not qualified, can we get someone that can come and drive us into the kind of thing we want to be driven into? I mean, look at it. The commission is meant to be fighting corruption. And you cannot fight something that you're not legitimately, you know, able to fight. I mean, can you fight what you don't know? I mean, you don't have the capacity to be there. Anybody can challenge the EFCC chairman at any point if it is being confirmed. At any point, it can be challenged that, oh.
But if you're saying that he doesn't know, somebody who has acted as a chief of staff to the EFCC chairman,
thank you.
He could say that he has a lot of knowledge concerning how EFCC is being run.
But the law is there. I mean, if I'm coming to trust as a guest, I cannot come and tell you stand up and I will sit there. Will I? No, because I know trust did not give me a contract and they did not give me the mandate. And you sitting here, you cannot ask me all the questions you want to ask me because there is a law that is guiding the procedures of what you're doing. So because I have always been, there have never been 2 weeks that I'm not on TV or radio. That does not mean I understand the job that journalists are doing, because I'm not a journalist. So that's what we're saying in plain English. He is not qualified to be the chairman because the laws are there. I think the best thing that could have been done is possibly amend that law, remove that requirement, put something that you know will suit the public, right? The masses, everybody, so that when, you know, the biggest point of this whole thing is the fact that we're not only making this thing for our country, we're making it for the rest of the world. I mean, we want more investment to come into the country. As an investor, I might be thinking, can I get justice when there is an issue? Will my properties be looted when there is an issue? If it's something like this happen, can I get justice when there is no justice? There is no legitimacy in the justice. I mean, this is an anti-graft agency, and the chairman, that is the #1 person, the picture of that thing, was appointed in an unlawful manner, right? So for my own ease, I feel the government listen, and this is a government that is trying to take people to a certain level, which they call renewed hope, right? I think for someone that is pledging that, need to listen and need to revisit, see and explain. He had an issue, he was suspended, and when he was suspended, he was cleared as it was alleged. Can we have what he was cleared on? What was his offense that led to his suspension, so that we will not have the issue? Nuri Bado left, Ibrahim Laburde is still in service, he left, Farida Waziri left, Abdurrashid Magu, Abdurrashid Bawa left, Chikol has gone, he did acting, yes. I think he is the only solid person that will live without any issue attached to his name, and maybe he's going back to the service and continue.
I think the EFCC was working on the report that some ministers and governors have been on the red list, and I'm sure Chukwu was leading that investigation.
Do you know, just to say, I'm not cutting you, from 2016 to 2022, right, the 100 cases I'm talking about, some certain percentage of the large chunk of that is former governors, and almost 2% are present senators and then former senators of the cases. You know, there have been a lot of cases, but till today, right, I cannot sit here and beat my chest and say these are the possible big cases that we've seen, you know, people have, you know, really the punishment was intense and what have you. The 2 cases that we've had of Jolly Nyame, Reverend Jolly Nyame, and that of the guy in Plateau State, they were released.
They were pardoned.
All right. So what you're saying, it's all about transparency. You're asking the anti-graft agency to be transparent with Nigerians. That way, you carry the Nigerians along. Yeah. All right. Let's wrap up because of time constraints. Agbonsuremi, yes, I would like to hear from you.
Let's ask this. There's something I saw, and I would like to ask the barrister about this question. Okay. A lot of legal practitioners are saying that they are going to court and that this law is there, we can see it, and we are going to challenge this in court. Is this even possible at this time? Though we haven't had the confirmation from the Senate, but is this matter a matter that people can challenge in court?
I mean, there are not all cases you can go out and start fighting, because for you to go out and institute any action, you have to have what we call stand-by. I mean, you have to have special interest more than over and above the Nigerians. I mean, in this case, all Nigerians are equally interested. So not one of us cannot just go to court, because that will lead to publicity of actions. I mean, I can go to court, anybody else to court, and that will fill up all the cases. So I think the best thing to do with this for the Senate, which has the power to confirm or reject this thing, to exercise its oversight function. I mean, to exercise its duty by rejecting and comment, on the eligibility of this man, and also call on the presidency to example.
Okay.
All right. Finally, Agbonsuremi, can we hear your final thoughts on the chair of the EFCC? Agbonsuremi, is he with us?
Yes. I think it is important for us to have the chairman of an anti-corruption agency that is off board. It is important for us to have confidence in anybody that's appointed to that office. And like Modibbo said in the studio there, we need a chairman of an EFCC can run an organization that is open and transparent. The civil society want to work with the EFCC, but I can tell you, as an activist, as a journalist, as a practitioner, there's such opportunity to work with the EFCC. You write a letter to them to invite them for you. They don't come. You ask them for it using the freedom of information. They trash it. This is not posturing of an organization that fights corruption. So if you ask me, the qualifications should really even go beyond what has been put on the. While we are meeting up the tanked laws, the qualifications, the chairman of the EFCC, we should look at somebody who is open-minded, who is to be allowed to be used by the appointing authorities to cover up fraud, to cover their own back, because that's what I have seen in all the trade that I've seen. So we need a chairman of an EFCC, an institution that is independent of government, is independent of the vagaries, the kind of influence we have around Nigeria to be able to face the task of fight corruption, because it is a very, very important. And lastly, we have an organization that is ready to partner Nigerians, partner with the public, partner with the media, partner with the civil society organizations to be able to get the information they need, to get the support that they have to be fight corruption. This idea that I want to work with anybody is as a result of the secrecy, and if you probe further, because of the appointing authorities that want to be susceptible to their influence, their influence, and make it impossible for them to do their work very well.
All right. Thank you so much, Okhiria Agbonsuremi, the Executive Director of PRIMOG, that's Progressive Impact Organization for the Community Development. Thank you so much, a journalist, broadcaster, and civil society activist. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Of course. And also via Zoom from Kano is Abba Hikima Esquire. Thank you so much, Barrister, for joining us for your input this morning.